Friends, Brian here for Yes You Can Play Guitar. Are you a struggling guitar teacher? Always worried about what to do, not making enough money, wanting to make more money? I happen to know a thing about teaching guitar. I've been doing it for decades, and I've learned a lot of things the hard way. This is going to be my gift for you, the struggling guitar teacher, from all the mistakes I've made to help you. Check it out. Number 10, one thing you can do that costs you nothing, that a lot of your competitors aren't doing, is really simple. Care. Care, man. Care about your students. Don't look at them as a wallet. Don't look at the clock all the time. Just say, hey, if my student does well, then that's going to reflect on me and my business. I have a good friend of mine. Many years ago, he took guitar lessons from me. He, at the time, was frustrated. He was taking lessons from a teacher who was a phenomenal talent. Actually, he moved down to Nashville. I've seen this guy play and sing live. He's an amazing guitar player and singer and musician. But at the time, this is in the late 90s, and he said, you know, I'm taking lessons from this guy. I go into the music school, I pay my money. It's a half-hour lesson. He'll sit down with me and say, today we're going to learn a C chord. And then he goes out to the photocopy machines, leaves a student there for 20, 25 minutes, comes in with some diagrams saying, here you go, we'll see you next week. My friends, that is not caring. If you care about your students and just go the little extra mile and not look at them as a wallet, it will go so much further for you. The good thing is too, and I want you to realize, in the guitar teaching industry, there is a lot of bad guitar teachers. They teach to live, they don't live to teach. Big difference. Really simple, care. Go that extra mile. Now, I'm not saying let people walk all over you. Just go that extra mile. Care about the student, have an interest, care about their progress on the guitar. Number 9, dress professional. Look professional. Have professional looking advertising. Look at me. Professional. Simple, easy. I'll see a lot of teachers out there who don't get it. They'll advertise on their website or on their Facebook page. You know, they'll have a gym sweater on, or they'll have a really wrinkled up, dirty Lynyrd Skynyrd shirt with chili on it. Come to me for the best guitar lessons. No. Everything you do, be professional. Dress professional, have a professional looking studio. This is my studio. When the student comes in, they're going to say, hey, wow, look at this. I'm going to take this seriously. It really leaves a lasting impression. I've had a lot of teachers come to me over the years say, I don't get it, I'm not doing well, whatever. Really stop and look at that. You have to look at yourself through your potential customer's eyes. If you don't dress professional and you look very unprofessional or act unprofessional, it's going to come back to haunt you. Number 8, be honest with your product. We can all improve. I'm always looking to see how I can improve and give students better value for their money. Are you giving them the best possible product? There's different things you can bring into your teaching to make yourself better. Maybe it's using a new piece of software, maybe it's getting a new dry board, maybe it's having some workshops so people can learn. A lot of times we use the one-on-one method, which is great, but after a while people get to know you and they trust you. If you put them into some groups, there's a social aspect to it. It's a different way of learning because, hey, someone might be asking a question that student might not have thought of. Always think of ways to improve your product. Always. Number 7, know your worth. What do I mean by that? Well, wherever I have lived, as soon as competition would come into town, a lot of people would be like, oh my God, what am I going to do, competition? And they worry about what the competition's doing. I don't do that. I've never done that. Maybe when I started out, I did that. You know what I do? When competition comes around, I put my prices up. because I'm not confident in my product and I know that the competition can't touch me. Also, it also does another thing. It weeds out the people that place all the value strictly on the money. What do I mean by that? A lot of the people that you have difficulty getting payment from, a lot of the people that hem and haw over price, they're not the people you want to be teaching. I understand times can get tough, things can get expensive, people go through hard times, but you have value. Your life has value, your experience, your knowledge, everything you have invested into learning the guitar has value. And I know what it's like when you're starting out and you're worried, you don't want to put your prices up, you might lose students, but with time, you will know your value. Another way of knowing your value is if you are working for a music store, which a lot of people do to start out or supplement their income, know your value. Now, I'm going to give you guys a story from my background. When I started out, I started working for a music store. I had 2 owners. I was very thankful for the work. I remember the owner sat me down and said, hey, we need a good guitar teacher here. The last guy we had, he had no retention. Retention is the ability to hold on to students. So they don't just take a lesson or a month of lessons, they stick around for a while. I started out with 4 students. In the end, when I gave my final notice, I had 65 with really good retention. There were some changes happening, lives change. One of the owners left. One owner was left. He went through a health scare. He had a very bad battle, but things had just changed. I'd been there for about 5 years and things just started to get a little weird when it was time for me to get paid. I wasn't really given any initiative to stick around. I could make a whole other video for that, but me and the owner are on good terms. It's water under the bridge. I learned from it. But I knew my time. I knew my worth. I knew I'm good at this. I can leave and do very well for myself. I knew my worth and I knew when it was time to leave, when I felt I wasn't getting what my worth should have been giving me. Know your worth. 6, know when you have to let someone go. It's going to happen, and we'll get into this in a little bit. You're going to have students that either they bring in personal drama, maybe they're disrespectful, and worst of all, it's a nightmare getting paid. Okay? I remember a number of students, boy, I could make some really good stories on this channel for you guys. I remember some students where the payment was just a constant issue. I remember this one girl, she was very talented and her heart was in the right place, but she just didn't understand I was running a business. And, no matter how much I talked to her father, he didn't get it. I know there's other issues going on, but it went on for a year or 2. It was always a headache getting paid. It was just a constant headache. And although I wanted the best for the kid, I wanted to explain to her, I said, look, you can't walk into a restaurant or a store and just take what you want and leave and not pay. It doesn't work that way. Eventually I got to the point, I said, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. It's too stressful, it's not worth my time, but I always let people go with dignity. So when people stop for the summer, maybe I'm full in September when they want to come back. No more explanation needed. 5, debt collecting. We don't like doing it. Unfortunately, it's a part of just about every business out there. For some reason, a lot of people, when they look at home-based businesses, it's just a different dynamic. I want to believe that a lot of people are good. They don't mean things. We don't know what's going on in other people's lives. Maybe they've had, a huge vehicle bill, something. I've had some people come to me and say to me, hey, I get paid on the 12th of the month. Can I pay you that week? No problem, as long as we're consistent with it. If you let payments slide with people, you're probably asking for trouble. And that usually leads to big headaches down the road. It's something you don't like doing, especially when you're starting out. You're like, oh, I don't want to offend people. I don't want to upset them. But when you get used to doing it, it becomes very easy. Another thing you can do is set up a simple reminder program. You can say to people, hey, do you want me to send you a reminder when payments due? Another trick that you can do as well that is very nice and kind of gives the people dignity and you're not, attacking them and saying, hey, would you like receipts with the lesson? Usually that will get them to say, oh, yeah, I have to pay you. Sorry about that. Sometimes when people don't pay you, sometimes it can be a good thing. It means that they're very comfortable in your studio. So there's a lot of ways you can look at it, but be firm, have your policy, and always have a polite way of reminding people, and always let them have their dignity. When it's time to not be nice, as Dalton said in Roadhouse, there'll be a time to not be nice. You'll know when that is. Number 4, put money away for the slow time. What does that mean? Well, traditionally, with teaching guitar, the slowest time is always the summer. So in the past, I would always make sure that I had a busy gig with a band, or I'd have my license working as a DJ. I'd be doing other things to bring income in during those slow times. Traditionally, the most busiest times are beginning of September, when people get back into the routine of going to school, or especially New Year, when people have resolutions. What are common New Year's resolutions? Well, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get in better shape. And that, for a lot of people, that lasts for about 2 weeks. But with guitar, same thing. You get people get a guitar, or young Johnny gets his guitar for Christmas, he wants to be Eddie Van Halen, they're going to sign up for lessons. So traditionally, January is usually the busiest time for guitar lessons. September is usually the second busiest time. And you can be assured that after May comes around, your income is probably going to drop by about 50%. It's always good to stick a little bit of money away for that slow time. Number 3, when a student decides to end the lessons, give them dignity, do it with a nod and a smile. You don't know what's going on in their life. If you like the person, nod, smile, and say the door will always be open down the road. If it's someone you're okay not teaching, just nod, smile, shake their hand, and wish them all the best. Always let people leave with dignity. I'm going to tell you guys a story one time. About 22 years ago, I took lessons from someone who was a PhD, one of the most brilliant minds of music I had ever met in my life. The guitar lessons, I wasn't too crazy with the guitar lessons. He was trying to convert me over to being a classical guitar player. That I did not like, but what I did like is our conversations. We would get into these really heavy conversations about theory, chords, the whole 9 yards that I knew I couldn't really have with anyone else around. The time came when I had lost my job. Okay, I was just kind of getting into teaching guitar full time. I had a bad situation during a breakup. I was left with bills I didn't know were there. I remember saying to him, I can't afford to take lessons anymore. And he just kind of laughed it off. I kept taking lessons for a few more weeks. But then one day I said, look, I'm really sorry. I can't afford this right now. Maybe down the road. So, when someone does that, nod, smile, shake their hand, wish them all the best, tell them the door's still open. He didn't. He kept leaving messages on my machine. He kept emailing me saying, hey, we need to talk about this. Let's get together for coffee. Come over to my house. It got weird. It got really creepy. And don't do that. If someone decides to leave for lessons for whatever reason, respect it. Nod, smile. There you go. Number 2, never ever put down your competition. If you're confident in your product, know you have a really good product, there's a good chance you're probably better than what your competition's doing. Never ever put down your competition. When you get asked to say, I have no idea, I don't know the person, or I don't know, they could be really good. Never ever put your competition down. Don't get into local gossip wheels about competition. Don't say things. Sooner or later, it will come back to bite you in the rear end. Be confident in you, be confident in your product, and always nod and smile. Number 1, let your students make their mistakes. People ultimately will pick their own path. What do I mean by this? Well, I'll give you an example. 2 examples. It's part of human nature for a lot of people to try and avoid the work and commitment in that weird search to find an easier way. A couple of examples for you. One time I got a phone call years ago from a fellow who wanted to take guitar lessons. I told him my price. He said, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. I think I'm just going to learn on YouTube. And guys, YouTube is great. You're watching me on YouTube. Hey, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram too. I said, okay, no problem. Have fun with that. I know as a longtime guitar teacher what the YouTube trap is. I've discussed it in previous videos. The YouTube trap is when a student sits down, especially a beginner, saying you got to practice, that's great, but what do you practice? Do you have a practice plan? Do you know what direction you're supposed to go in? Is there a methodology of how you're going to learn, like when you go to school? For beginners, no. When they get into what's called the YouTube trap, they'll sit down, they'll watch 20 seconds of a video lesson, say, no, that's not working for me, I'll go to this. Now, there are some people that do well with lessons on YouTube, but usually it's people that already have a background in taking lessons and they've learned how to learn. He called me back after a year and said, yeah, okay, I'm ready to sign up for lessons now. And he's on his way with his playing. Another time I remember I had a student years back, he would tell me he wasn't doing what I showed him. And he'd come back and, nice guy though, like talking to him. He would come back. I remember one time a few months into the lessons, he said, I'm taking lessons and I'm not getting as good as I feel I should. And I said, oh, why do you think that is? You don't seem to kind of be getting down what I'm showing you every week. Well, I'm really busy. And then it came out that he was looking at different YouTube channels. What sense does that make to pay for lessons but not do what your teacher's showing you to do in person, and you just kind of, he got into the YouTube trap as well. You have to let them make their mistakes. Third example, a very good friend of mine who was a student and became a very good friend. Sadly, he's no longer with us. He died in a car crash a few years ago, which is very tragic, still affects me to this day. But he was really into guitar. You know, he's really into Joe Satriani, and he said to me one day, I've been trying to teach myself for a couple of years and I'm not getting anywhere. And I said, okay, no problem. You know, I'm a technique guy too. You know, we sat down. You know, with all my students, I give them the basics of how to start building technique, about theory. We do some fun stuff. I give them a practice plan, tell them what to do exactly. We have a game plan, always. One of the things I told him was in the beginning, I said, okay, we're going to use a metronome, we're going to build up some technique, I need you to do these exercises every day, blah, blah, blah. He made the choice to not do that. After a year of lessons, he got better. But he said to me one day, he said, hey, I've been doing this for a year. I've gotten better, clearly, but I think I should be further along. I said, I agree. Do you think it's on me for that, or is it on you? Is there something that I showed you at our very first lesson that you made the conscious choice to not do because it involved a little bit of work, commitment, and grinding? He said, yeah, I should probably have used the metronome to help with my technique. I said, exactly. Why don't you commit to it for 3 months and watch what happens? Sure enough, lo and behold, he did, and his playing started taking off. You have to let students make their mistakes. Sooner or later, they're going to understand the easy way or the hard way. They might not stick with you. That's okay. You know, you've covered your bases, showing them, saying, you need to do this. There's no other way. You have to do this to get better. Big part of why there's so many people with a guitar who suck, and so few guitar players excel and are really good. I hope that helps you out, guys. What do you think? Comment below. Let me know what your experiences as a guitar teacher are, and also consider joining my Patreon. Check it out. We got a good little community there. Lots of fun stuff happening. Remember, practice hard, but practice smart. We'll see you soon.